Okay guys, here in this lecture, attached on the right here in the Resources tab, you have a zip file. Please download this zip file now to your computer and open it in your Explorer or in your Finder if you are on the Mac. Let's unzip this zip file now. I can do that only with a double click, and then I just copy the complete folder and paste it in the place where I have my other course files. It should be parallel to practice part 1 and CSS and theory part 1. I paste it in here. I have a few more folders here because I made some tests before I recorded this course, but that shouldn't disturb you. Now I have here this folder, Theory Part 2, parallel to the other folders. Let's open this in the editor now. Okay, so here in Visual Studio Code, I open the folder Theory Part 2, and here I have the enumerated files for our upcoming lectures. I also have an image folder, but this has just a favicon in it. And then I have a JS folder with a few examples for later. Alright. So let's open up the first one, which is one_functions components HTML. That's what we're going to start with. Let's start the live server. And then let's open this file in Chrome. So here I have localhost 5500, theory part 2, and I click on this file, functions components HTML. Okay, as you can see, we have 3 examples here on the left and a lot of text also, but you can read this later if you want. What I want to do now is to open my browser console, because it might be interesting to see if we make any mistake. Then we will see the mistake here in form of an error message. So as you can see here in the first example, what I want to achieve is that we click on this button here and we will have a simple alert. So back in our editor, we scroll down until we find the example 1, which is here. And here we have our button. So in this button, I will just try to add an add click here. So we say add click equals, and then we want to have an alert here. So we say alert, and this should give us some text, for example, alert. Okay, now let's see if it works. Let's go to our Chrome. Let's click here. And as we can see, nothing happens. It doesn't work. And the reason for this is that we always have to specify a scope. And to specify a scope, we need X data. So we can put this X data here in the section or directly here in the button. It doesn't matter. Let's put it in the button directly. So let's just say X minus data. And you don't even need the equal sign and the quotes here. You can delete it. Just like this is completely enough. Let's save and try again. Let's click again, and now we have our alert. So this is the first thing that you have to remember. Without X data, nothing works. Alright? So let's do the second example. Now we want to call a function that is outside of our scope, just somewhere in our HTML document. So let's go to example 2 now. Here. Now I will create a script tag. I know that script tags should be always in your head section or in the bottom of your document, but it also works even if it's not very clean. It also works if we put it just somewhere here in the middle of our document. So let's create a script here. And then in this script, we create a function with the name hello. Function hello. And this function should also create an alert that says hello. All right. Hello. Okay. So how can we call this function now? Let's go here to example 2 to our button again. And what we can do now is that we try to call this function. So I say add click, and then we say hello. Something like this here. Like we would expect to call a function. Let's check if it works. I have saved already. Okay, let's click on say hello here. And it doesn't work. So I show you now how it works. And here we come to components. If we want to call a function, or let's say a method, outside of our scope, we have to create a component first. And a component is also just a function. Okay? So let's go here in our script tag again. And let's create another function. And the name of the function is my component, for instance. My component. Okay? And then what we do is that we move that function here inside of the other function. So I cut that out and put it inside here. But now I do not need the keyword function anymore inside of my other function, which is a component, because now we are talking about a method. So I can delete this. Okay? But it is still not correct like this. We have to do it like this. Inside this function, my component, we have to return an object. So we return an empty object. And now we put this method here, this hello method, inside this object that we are going to return. Like this. Now it is correct. And as we are going to put other things in this object later, I already will add a comma here after this method. All right. Now let's go down here to example 2. And here we have the method call hello. And remember from the last example, we always need X data. Otherwise, nothing will work. Let's try that out now. Say hello and we get an error. Hello is not defined, it says here. And now finally I show you how it will work. Let's go back to the editor. What we have to do now is that we have to load the complete component into our scope. And we do this here in Xdata. So instead of putting an object here like we did in the examples before, we will call the complete component. like this. And this component will return our object, because xData always expects an object. And this component returns it for us. Here. Alright? And then within this object that is returned, we have our method. Okay? That's how you have to do it. I hope everything makes sense now. Let's try it out. Reload. And finally, we have our hello here. Okay. In the next video, I will continue with this. In example 3, we will start using variables. See you there.